When I was just a wee little one, a little show popped onto the airwaves in 1968 that would change children's television shows forever. A show so vibrant, so utterly bonkers, that it was destined to be both beloved and feared. I'm talking, of course, about the Banana Splits. Yes, the Banana Splits Adventure Hour ran 31 episodes, and you have to admire a show that crammed an entire generation's worth of chaos into such a short run. And it was directed by none other than Richard Donner. Yes, that Richard Donner. The guy who gave us The Goonies, Lethal Weapon, The Omen, Scrooge, and so many more hits. Now imagine going from directing 4 grown men dressed as oversized, mildly terrifying animals to directing Mel Gibson and Danny Glover arguing about retirement. That's range, folks. The Banana Splits were a rock band, clearly inspired by the Monkees, but let's be real, they had more in common with an acid trip inside a Chuck E. Cheese. These live-action costume characters hosted a variety show full of live-action and animated segments, complete with fast-paced blackout gags straight out of Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In. And, fun fact, the show's head writers, they were poached directly from Laugh-In. So when you wonder why the Banana Splits felt like a psychedelic fever dream with that type of sense of humor, well, now you know. The costumes themselves were created by Sid and Marty Krofft, based on designs by Hanna-Barbera artists. You know, the Crofts. The same minds behind H.R. Pufnstuf, Lidsville, and other nightmare-fueled children's programming, which you can also see a video about on this YouTube channel. And yet somehow, the Banana Splits still managed to be their most unsettling contribution to pop culture. Now let's meet the Splits, shall we? First up, we have Fleagle, a beagle with a lisp and the self-proclaimed leader of the group. He was voiced by Paul Winchell, who also voiced Tigger in Winnie the Pooh. So, if you ever wanted to imagine Tigger fronting a rock band while dealing with an existential crisis, Fleagle was your guy. Next, we have Bingo, a nasal-voiced orangutan brought to life by Dawes Butler, who, if you're a fan of classic cartoons, voiced basically everyone, including Yogi Bear. So just imagine Yogi Bear if he were in an experimental 60s band instead of stealing picnic baskets. And then there's Drooper, the southern accented lion voiced by Alan Melville. A staple. He was a staple in comedic 1950s television. His voice gave us that reassuring, cool uncle who's seen stuff energy. You know, which honestly was comforting in a show where nothing else made sense. And finally there's Snorky, an elephant who didn't speak but honked, performed by James McDonald, who also did voice work for Disney. Snorky was the group's Ringo, a quiet, lovable, and, possibly holding a deep well of rage just beneath the surface kind of character. Now, you might be thinking, wow, that's delightful, if slightly unsettling. Whatever happened to these beloved characters? Well, naturally, they turned into homicidal maniacs in 2019 in a horror movie. I mean, let's be honest. Was there ever a more natural evolution? Yes, in the Banana Splits movie, a family attends a live taping of the Banana Splits TV show, only for things to go completely off the rails when the costume characters, who in this version are animatronic, find out that they are being canceled. And like any rational children's entertainers, they respond with a brutal murder spree around the studio. Makes perfect sense, right? Now, the film got mostly positive reviews from horror fans and people who grew up with a healthy distrust of costume mascots. But despite its cult following, it only pulled in about $279,000 in DVD and Blu-ray sales, which frankly is a crime. This movie deserved so much more. And fun fact, the Banana Splits horror movie started as a script for Five Nights at Freddy's, but when that project fell apart like it kept doing back then, they just slapped the Banana Splits branding onto it instead, and honestly, it just feels right. So, to recap, The Banana Splits started as a weirdly catchy, slightly unnerving kids show from the 60s, featuring characters who look like they were, I don't know, one bad day away from becoming horror villains. And then, 50 years later, someone finally made that nightmare a reality. And I loved every second of it. So, if you enjoyed this bizarre childhood nostalgia, be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. And leave a comment below letting me know, did the Banana Splits delight or traumatize you? Or, like me, was it somehow both? So, thanks for watching, and if you'll excuse me, I'm now off to hum the theme song for the next 3 weeks straight. Tra la 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 la, tra la 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 la.